Well, let's get started with our top focus story at this hour, and it is with regards to India's position in the Global Hunger Index. India has slipped 6 positions in the latest Global Hunger Index report and now ranks 107 out of 121 countries. With a score of 29.1, the level of hunger has been labelled as serious in the country. So let's just tell you about the severity level, why we are calling it serious. There you have it on your screens right now. If you look at the figures, as per the severity level, less than 9.9 is low. So 10 to 19.9, so that is a moderate range. 20 to 34.9 is a serious range, and this is where we stand, which is why we said the Global Hunger Index in India is serious, because our index is around 29. 35 to 49.9 are alarming levels, and above 55 extremely alarming. So India's position at the moment on the severity level when it comes to Global Hunger Index is quite serious. It comes specifically under that category as I read out the figures. So it has also slipped below South Asian peers except the war-torn Afghanistan. Neighbouring Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal and Myanmar have all been ranked above India. Some countries are ranked below India. They include countries like Zambia, Haiti and Chad. But look at the figures there. Pakistan ranked 99, Sri Lanka 64, Myanmar 71, India is at 107. So also let's put out those figures again. Yes, Nepal 81, Bangladesh is 84th in the ranking, Afghanistan 109. That's the only country that is below India in the ranking. So India has ranked 107 out of the 121 countries in the Global Hunger Index, with its child wasting rate at 19.3% being the highest in the world. Well, let's explain what is wasting. It is one of the key indicators used to assess the prevalence of childhood nutrition. A child is defined as wasted if their weight is too low for their height. So the Global Hunger Index, viewers, is a tool for a comprehensive measurement and tracking of hunger at global, regional and national levels. The reason for India's position is quite clearly undernourishment. So if we look at undernourishment prevalence in India, it actually rose in India from 14.6% in 2018-2020 to 16.3% in 2019-2021. So because of the rise in undernourishment figures, it is highly possible that our ranking has slipped. Now, what this translates to really is that out of the global population, India has 224.3 million people in the category of undernourished people, out of the total 828 million people globally. So very large large chunk of undernourished population in the world actually are found in India. And these are not things that we are proud of. Today is a day that Indian women cricket team has made us proud, but these figures are a big dampener, and we need to take a closer look to understand these figures, and we need to, of course, question the authorities that why are we at such a deplorable level when it comes to Global Hunger Index. Let me welcome joining us our panelists this evening, Shaturpa Ghosh, BJP Spokesperson, Anshula Vijit, Spokesperson for the Congress Party, and Dr. Rajiv Das Gupta, Chairperson, Center of Social Medicine and Community Health. In fact, before I go across to the representatives of political parties, I want Dr. Gupta to explain to us the parameters, Dr. Gupta, because you know, we see and we notice that every time the methodology is questioned, and here again, I'm sure there'll be naysayers who say, but what methods have they used? What do we know about that? And what is your thought on how this ranking came to this position?
Thank you. We are certainly staring at a very important problem, not just of undernutrition, but a marker of the socioeconomic challenges that we face. The building blocks of understanding undernutrition are height, weight, and age. And as you explained, wasting, which has gone up, is this ratio of weight and height. What's true, of course, is, and what one must remember and appreciate, is that over the years, the proportion of severe stunting, severe underweight have reduced. and more categories have moved from severe to moderate and moderate to mild. So on the average, in the long run, there is a shift towards relatively milder forms. But yes, in terms of the overall prevalence and the sheer numbers of undernourished children that we have, this is a mind-boggling challenge.
It is a challenge, and the reason you think that we have slipped these positions, are you saying it's because we have not paid attention to child nutrition? Is the government directly responsible for this in terms of policy making? Where have we faltered, Dr. Gupta?
On the other hand, this government has actually been quite serious with the targeted reduction goals set by the Poshan 2.0, which is accorded actually very, very high priority by the government. But the point is that is the programmatic intervention enough, or there are multiple sets of causes? In other words, the multidimensional and multifactorial nature of the problem. And the program can only address so much or a certain proportion of it. What has been significant in this shift in Poshan 2.0, which, as I said, has been given primacy by the current central government, is putting emphasis on multisectoral collaboration and bottoms-up planning at block and district levels.
Right.
But the challenge is that multisectoral planning is easier said than done, and how do we actually operationalize a well-rounded multisectoral approach is the biggest challenge. It is not that the effort is lacking, but the whole manner in which multisectoralism has to be operationalized is a much bigger problem than often realized in policy documents.
Yes, because you know what we see, the child wasting part, like you mentioned, it's a strong predictor of mortality among children under the age of 5, and that has worsened 15.1% in 2012, 2016 to 19.3%. So in all of these parameters, India has slipped from where it was 2 to 3 years ago. Shatarupa ji, I want to ask you, Ms. Ghosh, on the issue that is, of course, now has drawn a lot of criticism from activists and your political opponents from other parties. They've hit out at the government for India's ranking. Mr. Yachuri today, in fact, said that the government must take responsibility for this era of darkness in India. How the Congress is responding, I will get Anshul to come in. But your response to how are you going to now face the people of this country with these kind of figures on the global index, global hunger index?
Afternoon, Afridi. Firstly,
this is Afrida. This is Afrida.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, similarly, I would like you to correct my name. I do not have a surname.
Okay.
It's just Shatarupa.
Shatarupa. Okay. I stand corrected.
Thank you so much,
Go ahead,
Afrida. Okay. Now, see, I would like to thank Professor Dasgupta for giving this whole discussion a very balanced perspective. Yes, the figures are very daunting. But it is not that it has suddenly happened. If you look at the records, I mean, I'm not trying to back off from responsibility in any way. If you look at the figures from before we took over government in 2014, I think we were ranking around 104 or 105. So if you look at the entire gamut of the whole global hunger index, we have slipped, definitely we have slipped some 3 or 2 digits. And yes, it is a very, very daunting task. But I assure you that the government of India, like Professor Dasgupta has said, has been taking severe measures, and we are looking at the situation. We're not really turning our eye away and saying that, well, we have nothing to do with it. We are conscious about this. You will remember that the Honorable Minister of Finance, under the guidance of Honorable Prime Minister of India, we have got several schemes wherein we are trying to improve this undernourishment issue on a wholesome basis. We have started things like one card, one ration. We have emphasized on the midday meal for children. we are looking at this entire daunting situation, which I'm constantly repeating. So yes, we, like the rest of India, has developed under the Honorable Prime Minister of India. We've had several reasons to be proud of our country. This also will be solved at the earliest possible. And as far as Sitaram Yechuri is concerned and Chidambaram is concerned, Chidambaram ji is concerned, well, they have a habit of blaming the BJP for something.
There is so much of
they didn't
one-upmanship, Shatarupa ji. You know, in
years.
Bengal, what is happening? There is one-upmanship on who takes credit for doorstep delivery of ration. There is politics in everything. But when it comes to when you look at
Bengal,
I am saying that these are issues. Beneficiary politics has become the highlight of our electoral politics today. But when it comes to the real issue, when it comes to our position in the globe, we have such a large chunk of hungry people in this country. It's really sad to see this. The fact that,
Afrida.
yes, and it's not enough to say that. We have to question. I will bring in Anshul, and I'm sure you'll have a lot to respond to because Anshul wants to come in. Yes, Mr. Abhijit.
Of course, Anshul wants to come in.
No, I mean, this is absolutely shocking. But, Frida, nobody should be surprised. I mean, the warning signals were all there. After all, hunger doesn't exist in isolation. It is a consequence of poverty. People don't have enough money to feed themselves. Hardly children can go up to any kind of place and buy themselves milk and protein. Just a while back, last week itself, the World Bank said that extreme poverty in India in 2020 had increased to 5.6 crores. And we are giving numbers from 2020. We don't even have the latest numbers. This is a direct Newtonian sort of consequence of poverty that we are in this position. And the government is in complete and absolute denial. It keeps saying that the economic fundamentals are strong. It keeps patting itself on its back on overtaking UK in form of the fifth largest economy, when they know that UK's per capita is like multiple times higher than ours is. Our poverty levels ever since demonetization and ever since this government took over have been increasing, and according to the global hunger index, our position has been worsening. I mean, it's all in the data. I don't want to go back to previous governments, but it's all a point of comparison. But we must recognize that. Well, because we certainly did well. If you look at the figures. If you look at the figures from 2004, 2000 to 2014, we were actually doing better in the global hunger index because 14 crore people had been taken out of poverty. And that was a direct consequence of the robust GDP growth rate, of employment, of public investment, and a comprehensive integrated plan to improve the economy of India. Hunger doesn't exist in isolation.
It is not something you're just basically talking to yourself, Anshul.
No. Let's put things in perspective. Anshul, wait, let me finish. Shatarupa ji, let me finish with Anshul. Yeah. Anshul, would you at least give credit where it's due, where this government has indeed, and Mr. Das Gupta also said, has indeed increased the focus on ration for the poor with the kind of welfare schemes for which this government has also faced a lot of flack. But the point is that when it comes to delivery of basic food items, this government has only ramped it up. It has not decreased the quantity or the proportion. Yet you have these figures. Isn't that a reality? So there is something in the execution of things or something in the way we are looking at it. Somewhere things are going wrong. Anshul.
Absolutely false. This is absolutely false propaganda. Our fiscal stimulus after the COVID came in was only 2.1% of our GDP. At the time of extreme crisis, our healthcare budget has actually gone down, by the way, by 10% this year. No, I must clear the facts. And because of that reason, handing out free, chawal and gehu doesn't improve nutrition. It is given to 80 crore people of this country, which goes to say how the levels of poverty had already increased by 2019. right? So it only became worse from then on. There was no fiscal deficit. There are no concentrated programs to improve poverty. There has been no public investment, which is very necessary. We know that public investment, government expenditure improves the GDP, the overall health of the economy. It takes people out of poverty. As Mr. Gupta rightly said, it has to be an integrated approach. There are many things that influence hunger. It doesn't come by itself. It doesn't happen by itself, right? So unless you improve the overall health of the economy is in shambles. All the economic indicators are going terrible. What you're talking about are a few formalized sectors that seem to be doing well because they've earned a lot of money because of low interest rates and deleveraging. They've earned a lot of money in the stock markets, and therefore a few companies are doing well. The government is tom-tomming that data to the world to suggest that all is well with our economy. That's absolutely false.
Yes, isn't it a shame, Shatarupaji, when you look at the figures we are putting out on our screen, look at the rank. I mean, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, they are better off than us. Their rankings are much higher. Nepal is doing far better than us. Bangladesh, only country worse than us is war-torn Afghanistan. And Anshul is making a distinction, saying it's not enough to feed people with gehu and chawal. That doesn't give nourishment. I will have Dr. Dasgupta come in on that, but go ahead, Shatarupaji.
Frida, I was listening to Anshul. He obviously has his figures completely convoluted. It is not the government of India which is tom-tomming its own figures. This is the fact that the economy of India has crossed UK is a globally accepted figure. It's not that the Prime Minister of India or the President of India or the Home Minister or the Finance Minister were shouting.
No, but what use? What use of it? Wouldn't a common man in this country question what use of any other figure when you have bulk of the world's hungry children in this country? You are a country full of hungry children. You're not able to feed the children. Forget about everything else. What other figures are you going to quote to me right now? When you're not able to feed children in this nation.
I completely understand, but all I'm trying to say is this is not the first time it has happened. We are extremely concerned that the children majority of the children, and this is a really alarming figure, but you also have to understand it is only last year that the Finance Ministry has already announced several measures to check this, and like Dr. Dasgupta very correctly said, that there have been measures and there will be continuous measures to improve the situation. You see, this sort of thing cannot be solved overnight, that Anshul and I argue on television.
There is so much hate, Shatarupaji. There is so much polarization. There is so much hate in this country, and the kind of narratives we see day in and day out, and this is one of the very few channels who will devote half an hour to a topic like this. Just take a look at what the other channels are doing, even at this moment. Even when the Global Hunger Index is out, everyone is talking about Mandir side saying this, Masjid side is saying this. There is acute polarization, and as long as people continue to vote along religious lines, I have a fear that nothing is improving in this place. People will have to stop voting along religious lines. People will have to unite. I think only then we have a solution.
Polarization, I'm sure, is not only our
no, but isn't it, that is, it seems like it's a very deliberate strategy to keep people divided so that we don't talk about real issues. And I gave you an example from my own fraternity. I said, I admitted, no one else will talk about these issues as much as Mira now will.
I don't think so, Afrida. The moment we have a Hindu voice talking, we get blamed for polarizing.
So you are bringing in the same narrative here again. I'm sorry, I can't allow that in my program. Dr. Dasgupta, please explain to us. Please explain to us the issue about... No, hang on. Let's get back to the topic. On the issue of nourishment versus, just feeding wheat and rice and the kind of ration that is delivered to the poor in the name of welfare scheme. Are we somewhere missing the point? Are we somewhere missing the fact that you need nourished children? You just don't, you can't just do, feeding them just about anything. Yes, Dr. Dasgupta.
We are absolutely missing the point, and let's stay away from the binary of this government and that government for the simple reason, that the causation is much larger. While there are multiple hypotheses and arguments about why calorie consumption has been declining in this country, a very significant argument, and that's mostly overlooked, argument by economists is what is known as the food budget squeeze. Now, put in simple terms, it is that over the years, the money spent on food, which is an essential expenditure, has gradually been declining on account of relatively more money or relatively more household expenditure being spent on what's now called non-food essential expenditure, which includes the key items of health, education, transport, communication, etc. And the subtext of this argument is that governments, and I repeat, governments, have been increasingly cutting down on social sector expenditures that certainly pushed this food budget squeeze. And let us remember that the food budget squeeze actually set in at a point, and what Abhijit said is absolutely correct, of very large numbers coming out of poverty. But it is at that time when both agricultural and non-agricultural real wages increased. It's that as the non-food essential expenditure increased, the food budget squeeze crept in.
Yes.
The other thing to remember that goes with it, and that's my last point, the social reality of migration among very, very large proportion of rural populations as a real lifeline to earning cash incomes. And that leads to very large, significant proportions of women and children and the elderly being left behind in the rural settings. And a whole lot of this is actually around the story of the mother, the amount of care she's able to take, what the family can afford, and so on. And this is a complexity far beyond rations or ICDS program and so on.
Right. It's a short duration discussion. I'll have to leave it at that. I thank all my guests for joining us, Tarupa, Anshul and Dr. Dasgupta. Thank you so much for joining us. Optics and posturing, enough of all that. We need to get down to the drawing board, have a roadmap to fix this problem. We cannot be seen doing worse than Pakistan and Bangladesh and Nepal when it comes to feeding our children.